Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new edition of the Smoak Break College Football Podcast here on 365 Sports and Rogue Media. I'm Craig Smoak, joined behind the scenes by Garrett Ross, and I'm here with you for the second time this week, as it's always a two for each week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, to talk a little college football. On Tuesdays, we look back. On Thursdays, we look ahead and make some picks for the biggest games of the weekend. So it's a Thursday. We're here to talk about what's ahead, but while we do that, and as we do that, need to also kind of get back into what we were last talking about, which was the coaching carousel on Tuesday. Obviously, the news that Brian Kelly was on his way out at LSU. Since then, no other jobs have opened up, although plenty have been speculated about. And the LSU job has not identified any strong candidates just yet officially, but there's the John Summeralls and kind of the typical list that everybody can form based on just who's out there, who would likely be interested, and who LSU would likely be interested in as well. So very interested to see that job develop, but to see the story develop around that job already, I am embracing chaos and preparing for it, as we've already had the Louisiana governor step in and give his 2 cents, and Scott Woodward, the athletic director, has already been basically scolded in public by the Louisiana governor. The guy whose job it is to make coaching hires already being kind of embarrassed in public, and not being told directly, but being told through the public that he's not going to be making the next head coaching hire because of how poor of a job he's done with some of these buyouts. And Brian Kelly obviously being the guy that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So a really interesting situation developing in Baton Rouge. I mean, it's a great program, arguably, top to bottom, the most successful college sports program when you take into account on the field success, but also off the field. And a job in the SEC with a lot of backing and support, but also, man, a lot of pressure. And yes, even Louisiana politics involved to some extent. So that one's already getting off to a fun start. And we've got, of course, 10 other jobs that are out there as well. But this LSU job is something that's going to be a lot of fun to follow. So nothing to update outside of just the people that are in charge being very outspoken about what they expect and what they anticipate and what's not going to happen. So very curious to hear more on the Scott Woodward AD side of things as this search moves forward, because if you're being told you're not making the hire and you're kind of getting goofed on, I just wonder how long your future is or what all of that looks like. But no more jobs besides LSU have joined the line, although I do want to say, because this is not a game that we'll be picking, there is a job that I do think will be opening up, in just my opinion, not based on anything I've heard, but just reading the tea leaves. There is a job that I think opens up with a loss this weekend, and it's kind of a random game for just if you're just a fan of some national program like Boston College and you're listening to this. I don't know how interested you'll be, but I think the heart of the people that listen to me on a regular basis know that we covered the Big 12 very closely, and in particular have spent a lot of time talking about Baylor over the years and following the Bears. And so we're back to talking about them here, because I do think this weekend against UCF on homecoming in front of what kind of a crowd, I don't know, because it could very well be 20 people, and I wouldn't be surprised. It could be a pretty filled out crowd just because it's homecoming weekend and people are in town, not so much for the football, but for the festivities. And so you get a large crowd just based on that. But while I don't know what to expect in that regard, if Dave Aranda and the Bears lose to UCF this weekend, I think that's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. There's just too much, malaise is the word I keep going to because it just fits so well. But there's just not very good vibes surrounding the program, and they don't appear to be getting better in any way. And it's one thing to lose to a TCU, even though that's a hard pill to swallow. It's another thing to lose to a Cincinnati, even though you feel like you really shouldn't be doing that either right now. It would be another thing entirely, and this isn't a knock purely on UCF, but it would be another thing entirely to lose 3 straight games, to lose that at home as part of the third game of that losing streak, and then to lose to a team like UCF, who is, while you're in the middle of the standings, a few spots behind you. Even though in the standings it may be like a 1 or 2 game separation, it doesn't feel like UCF's all that close, even with Baylor kind of being a middle-of-the-road team this year. So if you allow them to come rolling in with their definitely not Heisman contending quarterback compared to the guy that you've been trumpeting all offseason, and your guy in Sawyer Robertson there, and they come rolling in with some very talented skill guys and a pretty good defense, but they're able to beat you up and send you home with a loss on homecoming. I just don't think anybody could stand for that, and I wouldn't blame them either, because at some point something's got to give. And again, it's one thing to lose to a TCU. It's another thing to lose to a Cincinnati, who right now appears to be a pretty good team. UCF is at best an average team, much like you kind of are at this point. But to take a loss on homecoming, I don't think that you could possibly rally the troops anymore after that. So are we talking about another job after this weekend? I'm picking the Bears to win this game. But I can see where UCF could make it interesting, especially if Sawyer Robertson's turnover bug appears once again. And, well, the defense just acts typically kind of how it has throughout the season. There is a recipe for a loss that's very easy to whip up. But I do think that, at least for this week, they'll fend that off. We'll see, though. Could be talking about what job 11, 12 opening up, and there's already Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Maybe there are other jobs that open up as a result of other hires being made and the dominoes that fall. But I think Baylor is squarely in the crosshairs. So that is one, if you're a coaching carousel fan, so to speak, that is one spot to be watching for this weekend. Now, meanwhile, to the picks for the biggest games of the week, 5 games that we were picking on 365 Sports. At 4-1 week last week. I should have stuck with my original pick of Ole Miss, but, well, I had the same picks as everybody else, and plus the one pick that I kind of felt an urge to go towards was the team that I typically have rooted for my whole life, which is Oklahoma. Gave them the call against Ole Miss last week at home in Norman, and they fell short. They fell well short by my estimation, unfortunately. So missed that game. Kudos to Lane Kiffin and the Rebs for a very nice win as they continue to plug along. But besides that, felt pretty good about the week that was. And so let's try and make it a 5-0 week all the way around this time, or 4-1 would be good again. And we'll start at 11 a.m. in Austin, Texas, as the number 9 Vanderbilt Commodores, Clark Lee, and Diego Pavia, the whole crew, fresh off a couple of top 25 wins, now with an opportunity for yet another top 25 win. This time, however, on the road, and a Texas team that's seemingly been put in the grave, but's always managed to keep like a limb or two out of it. And dirt's being thrown on them. They managed to like shake themselves awake and climb back out of the grave. They've just been able to kind of maintain, and last week snatching victory from the jaws of defeat in Starkville, Mississippi. The Longhorns with a big win, although still questionable whether or not Arch Manning will be available to play after a concussion. Does it make a huge difference? I don't know that it does. I don't know that it changes my opinion all that much just based on what we've seen from him. So, yeah, they could be missing a few incredible throws, but there's also a lot of bad they could be missing. Matthew Caldwell is at your time. Obviously a fun, brief showing last week that gets you excited about what he could maybe do with the full game. But, yeah, Arch questionable. Texas 2.5-point favorites. They're at home. They've struggled. But I just got to believe that Vanderbilt, while very good, isn't this good, right? I can't imagine they're going to go get 3 straight top 25 wins. And I think Texas is a very tough team that will give that Vandy offense some problems. The Texas offense obviously is a huge question mark, but I'm going to default to Texas here and give the Longhorns my pick for the 11 a.m. game that we're starting off with here. So, yeah, give me number 20 Texas over number 9 Vanderbilt. Meanwhile, also 11 a.m., that game on ABC. Meanwhile, on ESPN, you've got number 10 Miami at SMU, the Hilltop Ford Stadium in Dallas. Give me the Hurricanes. SMU, 11.5-point dogs at home here. Nothing about this really screams upset. Kevin Jennings has been fine. SMU as a team has been okay. They're 5-3. They're 3-1 in the ACC. Just suffered their first ACC loss since they joined last year, losing to Wake Forest on the road. First game back at home in a few weeks. So I'm sure they'll be fired up to play at home. But based on the sample size that I've seen from Miami, which is quite a bit, and what I've seen from SMU, the Ponies can give them a game. But I'm taking the Hurricanes here to go into the state of Texas and get a big win to keep it moving. Then, of course, you've got plenty of other games that we would talk about, but sticking to kind of the the schedule here when it comes to the bangers and what all that entails. Another game looking forward to this weekend involves the SEC and the Tennessee Volunteers. What a fun race what a fun race that we're watching develop here in week number 10, which is just crazy to think about that already being the case here. But a really fun race developing. Mentioned Texas and Vanderbilt being a huge game. South Carolina, Ole Miss, interesting obviously because we're on upset watch with Ole Miss. Like Georgia going into the swamp as a top 5 team. Could be dicey. Just ask Texas about that. But Oklahoma at Tennessee, number 18 Sooners, fresh off the loss to Ole Miss, now taking on former national championship winning quarterback and Vols head coach Josh Heupel. Tennessee 3.5-point favorites at home. I gave Oklahoma the benefit of the doubt last week, picked them to defend their home court against Ole Miss, or home turf against Ole Miss, and they fell well short. So I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt this time around, and plus Tennessee's a pretty good team. Give me the Vols at home to move to 7-2 and to 4-2 in the SEC. And for Oklahoma, that'll drop them under 500 in the league, put them in a huge hole, and then 6-3. All of a sudden, the season starts to look a little sideways for Brent Venables and company. I think those are the conversations we're going to be having. Give me Joey Aguilar, Chris Brazel, and the crew to get the win over Oklahoma. And then, meanwhile, a couple of games out in the Big 12 as this is another league with a lot of fun going on near the top and quite the race that is starting to develop. Although injuries playing a pretty pivotal role in kind of how we're viewing things at the moment. So Arizona State, Iowa State kind of taking a back seat as Arizona State licks their wounds and tries to get Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson healthy. But that game, a game that looked like both teams might be ranked at some point, just a regular noon game, although I am interested to see Arizona State dealing with those injuries, if they could possibly get a win against an Iowa State team that's trying to avoid losing a third straight game as they've started to tank. But that's not the game or games that I'm here to talk about. The two Big 12 games that are of utmost interest, Texas Tech, 2:30 in Manhattan, Kansas, the number 13 team in the country, now 7-1, 4-1 in the league, that lost to Arizona State a couple weeks ago. Baron Morton back in the lineup and as healthy as he can be. Will Hammond out, so Texas Tech a little bit worse for wear. And now on the road, wounded, and against a K-State team that looked dead and buried early on, but now looks like they're hitting their stride just at the right time for this stretch run. Tech, 7.5-point favorites on the road. I am concerned about Baron Morton being able to stay fully healthy the rest of the way. Mitch Griffiths, he looks like he could be a very good player, but I don't know about saving the season for a playoff spot type of a run. I'm going to entrust him with at the moment. But Baron Morton is healthy, so you got to roll with that. Can't always be worried about the backup quarterback. I'm going to give Tech the call here. I think that they are the better team, even though K-State's playing better. I think the Red Raiders are still superior, but man, if Baron Morton goes down again, then this whole thing is kind of being held up by toothpicks, so to speak. So very curious if Morton can make it all the way through, because that's been hard to do so far for him this season. But if he can, I'd like what he brings to the table, the steadying presence and the experience that he has. And I think Tech has a lot of talent elsewhere, but this is now a confident Kansas State team. So Tech walking into a hornet's nest that looks a lot more dangerous than it did a couple of weeks ago. But I still think they're a really good team capable of rolling in and getting a win. So I'm picking the Red Raiders to stay right in the thick of the Big 12 race. And then in a key game when it comes to the Big 12 race, the final pick this week, number 17 Cincinnati at number 24 Utah. The Bearcats and Brendan Sorsby, a great story. Now in the top 20, Utah back in the top 25. And really just having lost to two really good teams in Texas Tech and BYU. So Utah, a little bit dinged when it comes to the loss column, but still a very, very good team, and I'm taking them to win at home. They are nearly 10-point favorites, which is crazy because Cincinnati's won 7 straight, but this game is a home game for the Utes. They did look really good last week. They've looked really good. Even in that Tech loss, they were competitive for a large portion of that game. They destroyed Colorado last week and did so with a backup quarterback in Bird Ficklin. It looks like Devin Dampier will be back. So unlike Texas Tech, where you're like, please stay healthy, Baron Morton, and cross your fingers with Mitch Griffiths, You do feel like with Utah, you've now got a couple guys that you feel good about being able to win you a football game. So it doesn't concern me as much if Dan Pierce not all the way healthy, although I do think they would prefer to have him in a game like this than the freshman and Bird Ficklin. But I was really impressed by Ficklin. I think Utah's a really good team, and while I've been equally impressed by Cincinnati, I don't view them as rolling in on a Saturday night into Salt Lake and beating Utah just yet. So I'm going to take the Utes. And, man, if they don't win this game, I am not picking them in a big game the rest of the way because I feel like I'm about 0 for 10 with them in the last 10. But I'm going Utes here. I think they're a really good team, and they've lost to the two best teams in the league on paper. But that's a big one in the Big 12 with big ramifications, and I'm sure BYU especially will be watching that one very closely and spiking that TV rating in Provo. So there you go. Going with the Utah Utes over Cincinnati in a big top 25 matchup, going with Tennessee over OU, going with Texas over Vandy, Texas Tech over K-State on the road, and then expecting Miami to handle their business once again and to keep on moving on in the ACC championship and CFP picture on the road in Dallas against SMU. So there you go. There's my picks for this week. Are we talking about Dave Aranda and the Baylor job suddenly be opening up? Will he be some hot defensive coordinator candidate? If not him, is there another job that we're talking about after this weekend? As there start to be more leaks at Clemson, even though we know Dabo's not in any peril, but do they somehow suffer another loss and add on some more drama there? Or are some of the obvious jobs that we've been kind of monitoring featuring more cracks and now about to break as well? I do think that Baylor one is another one to add onto the pile if you haven't been watching that one already, as we are 10 jobs plus deep at this point. So the carousel, equally as exciting as the schedule, but the schedule this week, pretty tasty stuff. So no lack of news, no lack of action. College football right in the heat of the race and right in the thick of things. What a sport. Can't wait to talk about what happens with you next Tuesday. But, of course, each day, 3 to 6 Central on 365 Sports YT. Head on over there, give us a like and thumbs up, a like and subscribe, or do so right here, on the Smoak Break channel. We would appreciate that as well. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 20 or so minutes with you talking the games, the storylines, and all things college football in a relaxed manner to help you kill some time and just talk about and listen about the sport that you love as much as I love it. So until next time, appreciate everybody for listening and appreciate everybody for their support. I'm Craig Smoak, and this has been another edition of the Smoak Break.